looked up as Judas left the room, then went back to studying the piece of bread my teacher had just passed to me. This is my body, broken for you. It had definitely been a Passover unlike any other, and I was struggling to understand its meaning. I have missed so much of what Jesus has been saying. I have jumped in with my own thoughts without thinking them through, and I don't want to do tonight what I did on that mountain before we set off for Jerusalem. How could I have suggested building 3 shelters when we were granted the privilege of hearing the very voice of our God? I looked across at Jesus as he passed the last piece of bread to John, who was sitting beside him. This is a strange night indeed. What is this bread for? And why did he, our Master and Lord, tie an apron around his waist and kneel in front of us to wash our feet? That is the job of a Gentile servant, not a rabbi. To wash the feet of those who enter a house, not even a Jewish servant would stoop so low. It's the worst job. Feet get filthy travelling along the dirty and dusty roads, and you make yourself so vulnerable to being kicked by those who take pleasure in hurting others. And yet Jesus had insisted. Resting my chin in my hand, I continued to look at the bread I was holding. I did not want my feet washed. I knew how awful they looked, after having been outside all day, and after a lifetime of working as a fisherman. They were rough and calloused, dried out by being exposed to too much salty seawater. I protested loudly against what Jesus wanted to do. I felt vulnerable too, but all he did was sit back on his heels and wait. He did that a lot, waiting. When I had calmed down, he gently said that if he did not wash my feet, then I would always be separated from him. This was the last thing I wanted. He was everything to me. And so, as usual, in order to make amends, I went overboard and asked Jesus to wash not only my feet, but also my hands and my head. He just looked at me with those deep, dark eyes of his and said, "Those who have already bathed have no need of washing." And so I let him. Rather than feeling exposed, it was the most beautiful, humbling and unexpected experience of my life. Feet are not the most attractive elements of the human body. In fact, they're covered up most of the time, encased, if we can afford it, in strong protective footwear, which lifts us slightly off the earth. To go barefoot is to be completely in touch with that earth, vulnerable to its stones, thorns, sticks, mud and other objects that have the potential to hurt us or throw us off balance. It's rare that we let others touch our feet, and if we do, it's usually only the people we really trust. Is this why he did it? I thought. Jesus always talks in parables. Maybe the washing of the feet is a parable to teach us about how we are to treat one another. It is certainly an act of service. I remember Jesus saying that he had come not to be served, but to serve. So perhaps that was it. Are we to offer ourselves to one another without the defensive covering the world lays upon us? To really come close to each other in ways that break through the boundaries society sets and the defences we build around ourselves. It is an act of equality too, equally vulnerable to each other, which after all is the grounding for all true relationships. It's a risk, of course. Showing ourselves for who we truly are takes courage. But if we do it, it often opens the doors for others to do the same. What a different place the world would be if we really did live like this. A sudden noise shifted my attention back to the figure seated at the centre of the table. Having distributed all the bread, Jesus was now holding aloft a cup of wine. "This is my blood, poured out for you," Jesus said, passing the cup around the table. In silence, each of us took a sip, and due to the emotion it generated in me, I could hardly hold the cup steady. "Do this in memory of me." Body to be broken, blood to be poured, feet that were washed, in memory of him. Jesus was giving everything of himself to us, but why and for what? The meal is over now, and Jesus is leading us down the stairs and out into the street, towards the Garden of Gethsemane. As he walks amongst us, I can hear his every step. "Love one another," he whispers. "Just as I have loved you, you should also love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples." Now I'm beginning to understand. Washing our feet and sharing the bread and wine were acts of unity and love. Somehow, he is bringing the whole of creation into a new relationship with God and itself forever. Never again will we be alone in our troubles. God will always be with us. We walk through the small wooden gate and enter the garden. It is full of olive trees, the tree of peace, and a long-time favourite place of mine. We were all tired, and so found comfortable places to sit. Things will be okay now, I think to myself. Jesus has taught us that we are to share our lives with each other, as he, the Son of God, is sharing his with us tonight, in humble service and unconditional love. What a wonderful and liberating message. Who could possibly object? Jesus went away to pray, and my eyelids felt so heavy. But wait, who was that coming towards us? Judas. Now where had he been? What had he been up to? My eyes adjusted to the failing light, and I realised he was not alone. Soldiers. Why had he brought soldiers with him? I watched as Jesus slowly walked towards the approaching party. He seemed to be expecting them, and did not flinch as Judas kissed him on the cheek. Immediately the soldiers sprang forward, and I couldn't help it. I drew my sword and brought it down on the ear of the man standing nearest to me. Thwack! It landed on the grass, and I was horrified. "No, Peter." Jesus turned to me. "Violence is never the way." I stepped back, convulsed by conflicting emotions, and watched as Jesus restored the man as if I had never been there. Then the soldiers led him away. I followed, but from a distance, I am sorry to say. All the courage and confidence Jesus had instilled in me was gone, and I was terrified. "No, I do not know him," I said when questioned in the courtyard. "No, I have never seen this man before." And then, in a betrayal even worse than Judas's own, "No, he is not my friend." His public trial broke me, and I could bear it no longer. As my friend, my teacher, my Lord, my God stumbled down the road under the weight of his cross, I dragged myself in the opposite direction, bowed down under my own.